Hey everyone, welcome to GLP's discussion today, and I'm excited to just introduce ourselves. My name's Rob, the founder of GLP Films, and I'm joined here by my colleagues, Laura, who's our head of marketing, and Erika, who's our brand strategist. So just wanted to quickly introduce us. We're going to go through about 3 different sections in today's discussion, and then we'll regroup and discuss each one. So let's dive into the presentation itself. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about storytelling for a sustainable tourism recovery. As I mentioned, it's myself, Rob, Laura, and Erika, and we're really excited and appreciative of you guys joining us today. I wanted to give a quick snapshot of GLP. We've been around since 2008, and we're one of the leading content marketing agencies that's focused 100% on sustainable tourism. So really excited to be here today to share some of our best practices and insight on tourism and as we move forward. So I thought it'd be good just to kick off with our mission. We help brands reach their sustainability goals in protecting nature, communities, culture, and heritage through the lens of quality storytelling and content marketing. So today's agenda is going to focus on 3 different parts. First is on storytelling, the second is on sustainability, and the third is looking at the future of travel. So I wanted to start off also with this quote. With over 100,000 digital words consumed every day, 92% of consumers want brands to tell stories with those words. So what does this say? Well, we'll get into content marketing in a second. But traditional advertising sells to us. What makes content marketing, and in particular storytelling, is it engages and inspires you. So what this quote is saying, don't sell me anything, but inspire me through stories. So let's jump into storytelling. Why storytelling? Well, we all know in today's social world and digital world, it's extremely overwhelmed with content. There's content everywhere. It's oversaturated. But I will say the one part of content that does stick out are stories. As we all know, and I know for myself, when I was a little kid growing up, I would always ask my mother and my grandmother, just tell me a story. And it really took me back to another world. It gave me an insight and really this holistic view of my family and my family's history. And I think a lot of us will have those experiences when we look over time. So ultimately, storytelling is one of the most compelling forms of content marketing. And storytelling in the travel industry, when you're seeing and engaging content, it really engages the audience. It connects with them, and it really inspires them to want to take action. So for travelers, when they see something that they really like, a story that's engaging, they're going to say, I want to go there. So I wanted to give one example here today of a real authentic story-based campaign that we put on last year. When COVID-19 hit in 2020, our whole team looked internally and said, what can we do? How can we help? Well, long story short, we put together our Tourism Strong campaign, which is solely based on story-first content. We reached out to all of our film partners from all around the world over the years and put together really just an inspirational campaign looking at some of the challenges, but also the opportunities that people experienced firsthand when going through COVID-19. Overall, we covered over 25 different stories across 12 countries. So probably one of the most successful, but also one of the more engaging campaigns we've ever done as a company. So now let's watch the trailer for our Tourism Strong campaign.
Hi, I'm Nikki Fitzgerald.
Okay, my name is Pierre Chiang.
I'm Dalmiro Portillo.
I am Victoria from Brazil.
My name's Alistair Matthew. I think we jokingly call me the Chief Facial Hair Officer.
Take us back to March 2020 when the pandemic hit. What was it like? How did it impact you and your immediate family?
I mean, the world changed in 3 days. So people really didn't understand or learn how to cope with this new situation of staying indoors.
When the pandemic started, it's a first descent because nobody's ever navigated it before.
ปกติเราต้องประชุมกัน
นี่ต้องเป็นระยะห่างกันเนี่ยใกล้กันไม่ได้
ตลอดแต่บอกว่าพอโควิดเข้ามาเราต้องนั่งห่างกันแล้วก็ ยิ้มให้กันเห็น ยิ้มก็ไม่เห็นค่ะเพราะว่าทุกคนต้องใส่หน้ากาก
You know, I think the easiest thing would have been for us to close. That would have been the easiest thing. But I was thinking about my people.
We are service industry, so we have to be where people want us to be. I think the ones who will survive are the ones who can adjust,
One of the wonderful aspects of the tourism industry is people love the industry, they love the people in it, and we're not going anywhere, and we're excited about the future no matter what shape or form it takes.
We need just to start dancing. No?
Sometimes I wonder if this is all happening for a reason, maybe the world just needed a break.
We are all going to be different after this virus in our heart.
It was a spirit of common goal, and it was a spirit of helping our citizens to contain the virus.
I told my kids, I said, if we can get over this funk, we're badass. I could say we're badass. I really can.
The important things, because we have so much superficial stuff. We don't need it, no? Today we are aware of what we really need.
Okay, so now that we've watched the campaign trailer, Erika, any quick comments when you look at this campaign overall? It was a long journey for our entire team. How did GLP really capture its voice through this whole experience?
I mean, like you said, it was when COVID-19 struck, we were, grappling with big problems, concerns, and things we've never had to deal with before. But we wanted to help, and we sincerely wanted to help our industry, our partners. And so we had to ask ourselves, what do we do best? What is our expertise? And we're storytellers. And in a crisis like this, I think connecting with community and hearing other people's stories was helpful and uplifting. So I think that was really the power of the campaign for us.
Laura, any comments or anything you want to add on to Erika's?
Yeah, I mean, I think just one thing for the people listening is just the power of storytelling. And really for us, that was that's what we've been doing for over 13 years now. But for others, it doesn't have to be something you're an absolute expert in to do it well. Just being able to tap into your own authentic stories, and whether that's the good things, the successes, or kind of looking at the challenges as well. And so that was something I think we learned that might be applicable to others out there, is just be authentic and tell the real stories on the ground with the people you work with.
Yeah, I know for myself, just in reaching out to all the organizations that got involved in the campaign, I mean, it really was, just in the interviews I did, it was like, just take me through it. What'd you go through? It was real. It was authentic. I mean, it was really just a conversation with these guys to really see, like, what did you go through starting back in March of 2020? How was it? How did your team respond? How did your organization respond? Take us through that journey. And we really experienced a tremendous amount of challenges. But I think the part that I took away the most personally was just the optimism. The optimism that people had. These are people that are dedicated to the tourism industry. And I think that was probably one of the more exciting parts for me, is just seeing that, gosh, these people can go through such hardship, businesses going out, being closed after 35 years in business, but they're still optimistic on tourism, still gonna keep fighting on. And that to me was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it comes to the point of, if you have a powerful story, well told, you don't need we didn't have access to a lot of our usual tools. So we had to reach into our toolbox and put together a great story, which, these are with film partners that GLP has worked with over the years. Looking back now, Rob and Laura, is there a particular story that really stood out for you? I mean, the whole series was compelling, but is there one that just really, pulled at the heartstrings or really resonated with you?
Yeah, I can chime in first, Rob. I think, there were so many, it's hard to choose. Like, just one, but I will say just being on location really helps to make the connection with these guys. And so one that I was, I personally experienced before the pandemic, so I could kind of see the before and then how they handled things was Chando's Tacos, which is a kind of a family-owned taco shop restaurant business, and they had, well, they still do. They have two or three restaurants, brick and mortar, and then also a taco truck. We filmed with them about like a year ago, I'd say, or year and a half ago. We filmed with them, and so when the pandemic hit, their founder Chando kind of made a decision, and he said, the easier thing for us would be to close doors and stop our business. But then he took a step back and said, what would be the better thing to do to be an example for his family and for his kids and also for his community. And that was to push through it. And it was really about coming together with his family and working hard and seeing how they could help their community. And so they ended up kind of having to pivot, kind of taking things online, doing meal kits to go, and doing a lot of online classes as well, which was just really interesting to see. I think both of his daughters got involved. So it was kind of really a family affair where they were doing, cooking classes from their kitchen at home, like sharing their recipes and traditions and things like that. So, they had an opportunity to kind of take a step back and say, we're not going to do the easy thing. We're going to do the harder thing, which is work really hard, come together as a family and help our community. So that was really inspiring just to see that.
Yeah, I don't think there was a more bullish person than Chando himself. Just talking to him, we almost had to censor part of his video just because it was so raw and in person. He did it on his phone, and he was just walking around their new tortilla factory, which he had just built. So yeah, awesome story. I think for me, though, the story that I connected the most with was Rafa Gallo from Rios Tropicales down in Costa Rica. It was honestly the first story we did. He was the first one we connected with. And, Rafa's a pioneer. He's a legend. He's the first person to ever raft a Class 5 Rapid. Actually, I think it might have been Class 6. But he was an icon. He is an icon. And his struggles ranged everything from personal health issues all the way to his business. And he, ironically, in 2020 was celebrating his 35th year in business. And so, it's just amazing to see someone of his stature and his reputation to struggle. And I think that was real. And just to see his business, which is very well known in Costa Rica, it's a rafting company. And, to hear him shut his doors and have to hunker down and same thing as Chando and a lot of the other stories, he rallied around his family, he rallied around his staff. But, I think the quote that stuck out the most for me was him just saying, we're all startups again. And that's really what COVID did. It set everyone back, not just certain businesses in the tourism industry, everyone. And he was now doing the most mundane, basic things that he did 35 years ago when he started his business. So a lot of great lessons. And again, it couldn't have been a more real conversation with Rafa. And it was moving. It was powerful. And I'll never forget. So let's jump into our second section here. I'll start off with this brief quote. Sustainability is the future. It is the way forward for resilience and positive impact. Very timely, I will say, when we all have gone through COVID-19 in our own personal lives and then through our work experiences. But let me just ask this general question. Why sustainability? Well, I wanted to throw out a couple stats today just to give a little bit of perspective. 87% of global travelers say they want to travel sustainably. And in the U.S. market, 42% of U.S. travelers want to travel sustainably. Ultimately, though, only 15% understood what sustainable tourism means. So from these statistics, what you can really see is this opportunity to bridge between this issue of education and inspiration. People want to do it, but they don't have the tools and the know-how. And so this is the opportunity that destinations, brands, organizations in the tourism industry really have to leverage and take advantage of at this time, because people want to learn more about sustainability. So, but looking at the traveler perspective and looking at what really drives and motivates travelers these days, well, there are a lot of concerns that people have for preserving the environment, culture, and heritage. People are aware of it. People are very knowledgeable nowadays. They're aware of their impact on a local basis when they do travel. And connecting and experiencing nature and the outdoors has only increased dramatically. I know for myself, I love the outdoors, but it's even gotten that much more of an interest after COVID-19. And also, supporting and helping local communities and the economy. We'll talk about a certain travel segment in a little bit, but people are much more conscious. They're aware, they want to help, they want to give back, they want experiences, and really that priority of wanting to give back and help is so important nowadays in tourism. So let's look at growth sectors that do fall under sustainable tourism. As we talked about, nature and the outdoors, the adventure travel segment, food and agriculture, so food tourism, community-based tourism, which we'll talk about later, health and wellness. The health sector has boomed. The wellness sector has really taken off because of COVID-19. And then lastly, cultural and indigenous tourism. All of these are different subcategories within travel, but they all have a connection to sustainability. Okay, so let's get back to Laura and Erika.
So Rob, we were just talking about sustainable tourism. Can you tell us, what does it mean to you?
Sustainable tourism is a very overused word. We all hear it in the tourism sector, and I like to look at it from two perspectives. One, I like to look at it from the individual personal side. I think one of the big transformations we've all experienced is just the importance of community, the importance of our family, the importance of nature and the outdoors, on a personal level, internally. I think that is very much a part of what sustainable tourism is. It's transparent, it's being respectful when you do travel, it's the impact that you have. At the same time, though, the other side I like to just call out is from the destination or the product side. Tourism is changing very quickly on the experience side. So destinations are embracing sustainability more than they ever have. Products are incorporating more experiences, cultural immersion. Obviously, all of this is now, post-COVID or looking at how it's going to change and transform. But sustainable tourism for me, I just always look at it for me personally as a traveler, but then how does sustainability change from the destination or product side? All of it is bringing in, and we'll talk about this more, just the impact on the economy, the impact on the society, the community, the culture. It all is interwoven and tied together for me. So but I will say just, also on the personal side, it's a transformation. I mean, that's why you're seeing this growth of health and wellness. People are looking at themselves internally. How do what is tourism to me? What is travel? I used to travel personally constantly every month, and I haven't traveled since March 2020, over a year ago. And so, it does make you think about travel, its impact on your family, on your community, and I think just having a balance or having a sustainable lifestyle and also a sustainable experience when traveling, it's all woven together. So let me ask both of you, where do you see sustainable tourism going? And we will talk about this a little bit more, but just for right now, where do you see sustainable tourism going?
Like fundamentally, we talk about this internally all the time. It's my profound hope that we have really taken on board the lessons over this past year. The pandemic has revealed shortcomings, frailties in our systems, and I think those are going to inform the practices that we already know are important in sustainable tourism. So that's like my primary thing is, have we learned, and can we take these things forward and make things stronger more community-centered, more people-centered, and provide more equity across the board. I mean, that's my hope, and that's what it seems. That seems to be the direction that we see things going.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too I'd add to your point is sustainability is almost a benchmark of doing business in the tourism industry now. You know, it used to be an outlier. It used to be something that certain companies embraced. It was part of positioning and differentiation. But now I think when people are really realizing how the local communities around their hotel or within their tour operator company is really an important part of their business. They can't just act in a silo. They have to embrace the outside community much more than they did in the past. That change of really embracing others and bringing others into your business, I think it has really, I think, changed tourism forever.
Yeah, and I think Laura often brings up the point that you should put sustainability at the core of your business, as part of your business model, not as a line item, not as an add-on, like you said. But I also think going forward, looking at sustainability, that we want to stretch that. Sustainability, like you said, should be at the benchmark of the bottom line. But new terms of regeneration, transformational travel, responsible travel, I think are really just an extension of what sustainable travel is, and just a more meaningful way for people to look at it going forward.
Yeah, and I would add to that, just so we don't get lost in all these new labels. Some of them are actually pretty old. But just, when it comes down to it, you can look at it as being respectful. So respectful of, the nature and the environment, local people, communities, traditions, and cultures. So I think when people get lost in the language, just bring it back to that simple point of, is this respectful?
Okay, so let's go back to our third and final section, looking at the future of travel. I think it is important for all brands and products to look back, look at the recent history. Traditionally, destinations or brands did focus on growth. It was primarily about volume. However, I think over time that we've seen, especially the last couple of years before COVID, 2017, 2018, we really saw over-tourism become a game changer, but also just a very common and well-known issue and challenge with tourism. All the environmental degradation, the social and cultural change, I mean, just not to just label mass tourism, but tourism just became too flooded. So today, some of the strategies, I think it's really been important, and it has actually been going on for a little while now, is looking at targeting segments of the tourism market. And one of those segments is really targeting the high-value, low-impact, almost give-back traveler. And one of those sectors is the adventure travel segment. And some of the key strategies that either a brand or a destination can look at for future travelers is dispersal, meaning going into other uncrowded or undeveloped areas in a destination, going during the off-season period, experiencing new experiences. As we mentioned earlier, looking at health, wellness, nature, the outdoors, those aspects of tourism are growing tremendously. And then also what we've been talking about, sustainability. But I will mention just the word of transparency. As we will mention, consumer travelers are doing a lot of research these days. So if you are going to embrace sustainability, as we've been talking about, make sure it's part of your core business and not just a label that you put there. Because people will call you out and they'll see it. If it's not part of who you are, it'll be known. So be transparent. So lastly, I think we wanted to end with a great recent case study that we just did in the country of Thailand. And it was called Sustainable Thailand. We filmed, ironically, during February 2020. We were there for almost 2 weeks, and I'll never forget coming home and leaving Thailand. At that time, in the end of February, there was only 35 cases of COVID-19. So it was a pretty powerful time. We weren't exactly sure what was going on, but something was happening. And while there, we focused on 3 different stories that all embraced sustainability and sustainable tourism and helping reposition and rebrand the country of Thailand. And we looked at health and wellness, we looked at community-based tourism, and we also looked at ethical wildlife tourism. So let's watch this trailer of our campaign in Thailand.
พอจิตใจดีมันก็ไม่เกิดความเครียดแล้วก็จิตใจดีหน้าตาก็ยิ้มแย้มอย่างเงี้ยค่ะก็เป็นมีผล
คนที่มาเที่ยวอยากได้ไปเจอไปเห็นเหมือนกับเรากับที่เราเห็นคืออยากจะให้สัมผัสธรรมชาติที่ยังดิบอยู่ไม่ได้มีการปรุงแต่งอะไรมากมายจะได้สัมผัสธรรมชาติจริงๆครับ
ผมมองว่าตัวผมเองก็โตมาจากคนเลี้ยงช้างมีการศึกษาที่ดีอะไรต่างๆที่ดีก็เกิดจากเขาเราก็อยากจะทำให้ทุกสิ่งทุกอย่างที่มันเกิดขึ้นคือย้อนกลับไปหาที่ตัวของช้าง
ยกระดับคุณภาพการท่องเที่ยวของภาคอุตสาหกรรมการท่องเที่ยวขณะเดียวกันเนี่ยก็ยกระดับสวัสดิภาพของช้างในภาคอุตสาหกรรมการท่องเที่ยวไปด้วย
มันจะอิ่มก่อนนะกัน
ต้องอิ่มก่อนนะแล้วอาหารต้องบอกว่าจากฟาร์มทูเทเบิลประมาณนั้นเลยจะสดแล้วผักที่เราปลูกนี่คือเป็นออร์แกนิก
เวลามีแขกมาพักที่โฮมสเตย์สนุกแล้วก็ทำให้บ้านคึกคืนขึ้นเหมือนกับมีเพื่อนมีญาติมาเยี่ยม
ทุกวันที่มานี่สตอรี่ไม่เหมือนกันสักวันเพราะฉะนั้นทุกวันที่มานี่ก็สนุกทุกวัน
Okay, well, it's great to watch the Sustainable Tourism trailer again. I love that campaign. I love the stories that come out of it. So, Laura, when we look at the future of travel, what key changes in travel do you see? What trends do you see sort of coming out of COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of keeping a pulse on the industry. And I think first and foremost is safety. I think everybody across the board, both destinations and operators and also travelers, they want to know, how can we reopen safely? How can we travel safely? So, kind of keeping that top of mind, I think moving forward is going to be important for everybody. Also, I think remote working and remote travel or working remotely while traveling is a big theme that we're seeing as well. There's a lot of different examples with hotels that are kind of making it easier for families to travel and spend a longer time in one place. Developing, a business center and maybe a place for families to hang out. So really making it easier for sort of the long-term, longer stay for people to be able to work remotely and continue to do their jobs while traveling. So that's another trend. And kind of on the same wavelength is slow travel, which is spending longer in one place, really immersing yourself into the culture, the local people. So kind of on the same vein as working remotely. So spending more time in a place is also another trend. Okay, in addition to that, I think we're seeing local travel. People aren't able to go as far, and it's safer right now to stick closer to home. So a lot of kind of exploring your own backyard, investing in local businesses and things like that. I think also outdoors and nature, we're seeing that's definitely a safer thing to do. So a lot more getting outside, wanting to do activities and experiences just with their own travel bubble. And then also more wellness experiences, people connecting to health and wellness. And then diversity and inclusion. I think that's been a really important topic this last year. And just seeing people get more interested in getting in touch with the local cultures, indigenous communities, supporting Black-owned businesses, and just getting more in touch with the local communities. So, Rob, what do you think we can do to ensure that sustainability is at the forefront of travel?
Well, we talked about this earlier, just that sustainability needs to be part of your foundation. It can't just be a marketing message at all. It has to be really part of your DNA in a way. And I will say one of the stories that we focused on, and you saw little snippets of it in the trailer on Thailand, was this community in southern Thailand, the Bantale Nuk, which the product they developed was community-based tourism. And in summary, when they developed community-based tourism, it actually started back in 2004 after a major tsunami came into the community. It wiped them out, and they needed to rebuild. And they saw tourism as part of their future economy. But when they built it, though, they didn't just depend on it. They diversified. They're a small fishing community, they're subsistence agriculture, they have other means of income. So when COVID-19 hit in 2020, they were devastated, tourism numbers dropped, but they were doing okay. So when we did our Tourism Strong campaign story with them, reaching out, the response was actually a shocking, we're actually doing okay. So it was actually one of the more positive stories during the Tourism Strong campaign, simply because they weren't totally dependent on tourism. It was a nice thing to have. It provides supplemental income. It helped the kids with schooling. So it was, again, a tragedy not to have it, but they were still doing okay. So I think that's, one of the big lessons when looking forward in how can sustainability be part of tourism. It just has to be part of the business or the organization or the destination. It has to be worked into the community, the businesses, the stakeholders. So it's part of the fabric. And like we keep saying, just part of doing business.
To your point, too, the choices that we make as travelers also put sustainability at the forefront of travel. It's the two sides of the same coin. So if you're looking for sustainable travel choices, a place like Bantale Nuk not only gives you an amazing experience in travel, but you're also providing economic security. You're having a genuine cultural exchange while you're there. It's a deeply meaningful experience. There's a little wellness added in. So seeking those experiences as a traveler also keeps sustainability at the forefront.
Yeah, I would say, I've heard of, we've done stories, GLP's done stories in community-based tourism over the years, but this was just an immersive experience. And I tell you, we were sleeping in their houses. We were eating their food with them at dinner. We made the food with them. Yes, we did, some tourist activities by making handicrafts, but we were also patching roofs, with cane and going out and harvesting clams so it was just such an immersive experience, but really it was so real and so authentic that I think the other thing, looking at travelers moving forward, is just do your due diligence. Look in, do some research, read reviews, get their newsletter. Take that time to really plan for your activity. It does take a little bit of work, and I think, but that's where you'll get that much more of a richer experience. And I will say, I just being there with this community for 4 days, and we were actually while there were tourists there, just to show, see their experience was just awesome and really just exciting to see how different tourism is all around the world and how different community-based tourism is all around the world. So looking at all the topics we've talked today, Laura and Erika, we talked about storytelling, we talked about sustainability, and sort of how we all are going to look at tourism after COVID-19. What gets you guys excited for tourism or most interested just looking ahead and having some feelings of optimism and excitement looking at the tourism industry?
I'll go first just with, I think we're at the tipping point where I think for a long time, the people that are working on this have been wanting it to go mainstream in a good way, where it's past that tipping point where it's becoming something that, as we keep saying, is part of the DNA. It's part of what people include in their, not just a line item. It's their core of their business. And, I think it's becoming something that travelers are starting to ask for it. They're demanding it. And I think that's what I'm excited about, is seeing that I think with the pandemic, travelers have kind of obviously been forced to stay home, but now there's this restart and this resurgence where people are getting really excited about being able to travel again, but they're also becoming more mindful of how to do it in a way that has a positive impact. And so I think, you know, it kind of puts it on everybody that's involved to do the work or continue to do the work for those that have been doing it already. But, you know, to put in the work to make sure that your products, your experiences are as, you know, sustainable as possible. And then on the traveler side, to do the research. But there's a lot of excitement there, I think, for people wanting to have a positive impact and making their tourism choices so that they have the best impact as possible.
Yeah, and I think with, you know, not being able to travel, and just the very human disconnections that we've experienced during the pandemic, like you said, the mindfulness of travel, the just like the heartfelt excitement of what it means to travel at the best of, you know, the best of what travel is exciting. And I really see, as we're talking to partners, just a commitment to lean in fully to the things that we already know, to build back stronger, and to, you know, speak directly to all these people who are hungry for travel, hungry for authentic experiences, and to get these amazing stories out there of all the, you know, people have been doing some great work this past year to rebuild, to restructure, to create new products, to create new experiences. And I'm excited to see those stories told and people getting to travel and experience the amazing things that are happening out there.
Yeah, I would compliment what you're both talking about. And you know, I think we've talked about sustainability and what it means in tourism. I would also just say, you know, share your story. You know, I mean, these stories that we've been talking about today, it's engaging, it's inspiring. You know, it gets me excited when I see a good story. I just want to go, or at least put it on the list and talk to the family and my boss to see when we can go. You know, so stories are a great way. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You know, it can be through photos, it can be through articles, or simple, you know, mobile phone-based stories. So don't make it that complicated. You know, do what you can with the resources that you have. But I will say, you know, I think COVID has been a good reset for tourism for me personally. I think it really, the people that love tourism are still in the industry, still fighting hard, being optimistic. You know, everyone's had to engage the local community, re-solidify partners, and you know, really look to the importance of team and supporting everyone. So I think there have been a lot of great takeaways on tourism. Obviously, we're all excited for it to officially kick back in. It's starting to happen. I mean, it's tourism even in early 2021. It's coming back. It's slow, but it is happening, and I think there'll be a really nice renewed excitement when it does return back as close to normal as we can say. So thank you everyone for joining Laura, Erika, and myself for today's discussion. I hope you really enjoyed it. I will say, you know, if you are interested in our Tourism Strong campaign, there is a free insights report for it. We're just actually launching it right now, so just visit our website and you'll get more information there. Also, if you have any questions on storytelling or how we could help with your brand's COVID recovery plan, please don't hesitate to contact us. You've got our email here, info@GLP Films. Again, thank you so much for taking your time out today. Really hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and we look forward to being in touch with all of you. Thank you.